It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a case study, and we're going to look at a couple who's thinking about financial independence, retire early. They want to kind of go on this path. So we want to walk you through the mindset that this couple might have, and then some of the feedback that we as financial advisors would provide to them as we work through that. So
Yeah.
there we go.
I'm getting my hype,
Getting loose.
my hype man position ready here.
So the very first thing that we need to talk through are sort of the facts and assumptions associated with this couple. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we have John and Jane Fire. Now, I should tell you, this is actual software that we use for our financial planning clients. We actually build this up to be completely custom to their unique situation. So we had some of our advisory personnel here build a pseudo case for us. And now this is John and Jane Fire. And this is what we know. They're both 25 years of age. And under a normal circumstance, they want to retire at age 65. So that is like your traditional retirement. And we're going to assume a life expectancy for both of them of age 95. They're same age, they're going to expire at the same time. Well, we know that if they both make $50,000 a year, we can estimate that their present living expenses are about $60,000. And we wanted to assume from an income standpoint that their income just kind of grows with inflation, and we have inflation built into this plan at about 2.5%. And we also want to assume that their living expenses kind of grow with inflation. So what that means is in their working years, they're going to spend about $60,000 a year in today's dollars. And when they retire, we'd like to replace about $60,000 of today's income. So we're going to have this flat lifestyle all through retirement. Whether they retire at 35, 45, 55, or 65, that's the level they'd like to live at. Make sense?
Exactly. This is perfect.
So we know that from an income standpoint, they're both going to start at $50,000 per year, no bonuses, no pay raises, just inflation adjustments through time. And if we have them both paying into the Social Security system, we know that in today's dollars, when they both reach full retirement age at age 67, they'll both have a Social Security benefit of about $23,000. Now, that will adjust if they exit the workforce early. They will have paid less into the system, so that means that their Social Security benefit will decrease. From a savings standpoint, we know that John and Jane are huge Money Guy fans. They listen to every show. And they know that we always encourage that they should be saving 25% of their gross income. Well, because after deductions and everything else, they fall into a lower tax bracket, they're both going to take advantage of their Roth portions of their 401k. So they're each going to put 13% of their salaries into the Roth portions of their 401k. Their employers are going to do a 3% match into the pre-tax portions of their 401ks.
Get that free money.
And then we're going to assume that both of them max out their Roth IRAs at $6,000 this year, indexed for inflation, through their retirement. So they are just going to stick to 25% savings. They're basically doing all the things that they hear us espouse on the Money Guy Show for how to live a financially responsible life. Make sense? We're going to assume that they are somewhat conservative investors. We're going to assume that they can make about 6.5% on average over the life of their investing portfolio. Perhaps that's low, but remember, whenever it comes to financial planning, whenever it comes to like building long-term iterations, you always want to err on the conservative side because you would rather things turn out better than you thought instead of be aggressive and have to eat like cat food hamburger patties for dinner every night.
Well, I also think it's worth dropping in. We're going to put a very conservative 6% growth on the linear growth, but when we run the Monte Carlo simulations, we're including every type of outcome that possibly could with a basic, it's a little more aggressive. What is it, like a 70-30?
I think it's a 70-30 to 60-40 type portfolio.
So don't let the 6% let you fail you. When you see when we get to the stress test, this thing's got all options built into it.
So if John and Jane were sitting down with us and we want to show them just a straight line picture of their financial life, this is kind of what it would look like. Now, they're starting out at zero, and they will begin. By the way, if you're out there listening in iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, this would be a great time to just pause and go to YouTube because we're going to have a lot of visuals in this show as we walk you through the software, but we'll do our best to kind of describe this so you get the idea. So as John and Jane are working, they're going to begin building their portfolio all the way up until they get to age 65, where they actually will have built a portfolio of just under $2.7 million in today's dollars. Now, remember, they're only going to pull off about $60,000 in living expenses. Well, you can do the math and realize that $60,000 of living expenses on a $2.7 million portfolio means that they have a very low withdrawal rate. So what actually happens is in retirement, their portfolio actually keeps growing. So they, when they leave this earth at the end of their plan, if we just assume a simple straight line 6.5% rate of return, would leave this earth with about $4.7 million left behind for John Jr. and Jane Jr. the second. I don't.
By the way,
name
I'll dig you out of this hole that you put yourself in. Is the fact that is in present value.
That's
so that
$4.7
million is the same as what $4.7 million would feel like today. Right. We have actually brought this back for inflation. So for all my inflation hounds out there who are always picking on us, is that don't talk about $1 million because 30 years from now $1 million won't feel the same. We could show you that could be inflated up, but we've actually inflated it back down to present value.
Now, we know that the market doesn't deliver us nice, even 6.5% chunks of return every year. So we run this through what's called a Monte Carlo simulation, where we have 1,000 different iterations of different market environments. So it might have 2008 followed by 1999, followed by 1973, followed by 2004. And what this system calculates is out of those 1,000 iterations, what percentage of them got all the way to the end of the plan without running out of money? Well, you can see under base case scenario, if John and Jane just do what the money guys tell them to do and save 25% of their gross income all the way until retirement, they have a 99% probability of success of a retirement at age 65.
So here's a moment of celebration before you start breaking it. Is that if you just come to us as a 25-year-old, you don't even have to make a great income. You have to make a $50,000 a year income. Yep. If you find a spouse that also makes around the same amount of money, we're talking about $100,000 as a household, and you do exactly what we tell you to do, meaning that you defer gratification, take a little bit of today for that great, big, beautiful tomorrow, 20 to 25%. By the time you get to 65, maybe even a little before that, you pretty much have a 99% chance of success. That's a celebration moment.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to let you break it with fire, but that's still pretty cool for the typical person who wants to go on the journey, love what they do, and they're working all the way to 60 to 65.
So John and Jane then say to us, guys, this looks awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But you know what? We don't care about leaving this earth with $5 million left behind for our kids, and we really want to be part of this FIRE movement. So what happens if we retire at age 35? Keep all of our other assumptions the same, just instead of working and saving till 65, we just cut out of the workforce at age 35.
That's 30 years earlier. That's only working 10 years.
So not only does it take out tons of income and tons of savings, but it also requires them to count in their portfolio for tons of income to bridge that gap. And what you can see is in this very simple illustration, they run out of money by 39.
Wow.
Not exactly a fantastic, remarkable retirement. So obviously 35 doesn't work if we operate under those same assumptions. So then they say, okay, well, we're reasonable, right? We're reasonable. What happens if we decide to work until age 45? So we're going to do everything. We're going to go to 45 and then we're going to check out. Does the plan work?
No.
Well, it gets a little bit better. This time it takes us actually out to age 61. But still, it's not even in straight line math getting us to the end of the plan. So then they say, okay, well, what about 55? If we just want to keep everything the same, everything static, can we retire at age 55? Well, what you can see is that actually changes the circumstance. Now, when you look at the straight line illustration, you can see that instead of leaving this earth with about $4.7 million in today's terms, they leave the earth with about $2.7 million. So yeah, that 10-year early retirement did cost them about $2 million, but perhaps that's okay. Again, we won't know for sure until we actually run this through our Monte Carlo simulation. So we select the age 55 retirement, we let the system recalculate a probability of success, and you can see that, okay, it's not 99, but even retiring at 55, they have a 90% probability of success, assuming they make no behavioral change throughout the course of their retirement.
So think about this. We have somebody starting at 25 instead of working to 65, which is 40 years, you're telling me 30 years still gives them a 90% chance of probability. Guys, that's incredible. Think about that. You give us 30 years of saving 20 to 25% like we talk about, 90% chance of success. I still would argue leaving the workforce at 55 is still part of the financial independence, retire early movement. That's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we have our base case. So now for John and Jane, we've cut off 10 years. We said, okay, if you just do this, you can make it until age 55 and then you can retire.